So, well, morning everyone. But yes, I'm Sam MacNally, and I'm a director of two companies. Essentially, one of our companies we do architectural and structural design, and the other company is a mechanical and electrical company. So, for those of you who don't know, it's lean towards heating, hot water, and electrical systems, repair, maintenance, planned and reactive maintenance, basically.
Okay, so where are you based, Sam?
So we're based in Kent, in Welling.
Yeah.
So inside the M25, which is handy.
What did you do when you were at school? Did you come out of school with amazing GCSEs, A levels, a degree?
Well, to a certain extent, not a lot when I was at school, or probably a lot of the things that I shouldn't have done. But yeah, no, I was always told when I was at school that that I was bright and I was capable, but I was just unwilling, which was a big problem. Disruptive, but yeah, I mean, I've done okay at school, but not great. To be honest, there's a lot of people, you know, that I know that done a lot better.
Did you always want to own your own business, or?
I think from a younger age, I was always keen to be my own boss. Whether I actually wanted to run a business, I probably wasn't aware at the time of what was involved and how much work you need to put in to make a business successful or even functional. But yeah, I think from a fairly young age, I was always keen to be my own boss. That was the main thing.
What drove you to want to be your own boss?
I think working for other people mainly, and just, you know, some of the people that I work for wanting to be more like them, I guess, and to be maybe an element of control, you know, to be in control of my own destiny and, you know, what I was going to achieve and not be reliant on other people, I guess.
So what would you say is the best bit about your job?
The best bit about my job is being able to pick and choose the majority of the time what I want to do and when I want to do it, and being able to make my own decisions about how we improve.
What's the worst bit about your job?
Probably stress, having deadlines and maybe never being able to switch off, never being able to call it a day, not spending enough time with my family. Yeah, they're probably the worst parts of the job.
Yeah. Has lockdown affected your businesses?
No. Well, to be totally honest, the lockdown has probably benefited one of our businesses more than the other, because one of our companies is more geared towards domestic properties, the architectural and structural design, and the mechanical and electrical company are more geared towards commercial. And as you know, most of the commercial spaces are closing down, and most people that have got their own place want to extend. So the domestic market seems to hit a bit of a boom.
Yeah. I think it's made people realise that all the monies they would have spent on holidays, they can invest in their homes.
Exactly. I think because people are spending a lot more time at home, and everybody's spending a lot more time at home, they realise that they haven't got enough space. They need an office, perhaps, which they haven't got. And yeah, like you say, you know, on holiday, there might be that extra few grand to sort of spend on, I don't know, a summer house or maybe an extension or a loft conversion. And that's all the sort of stuff that we do.
Yeah. I mean, working from home, if you haven't got an allocated office to work in, it can be quite stressful, especially on the rest of the family, because they've then got to tiptoe around you.
Exactly.
You're lucky enough to have your own office in your house, haven't you? I can see that.
Yeah, well, actually, that's my living room right there. And that's like the hub of the house most of the time. So generally when there's stuff going on in there and I'm working in here, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to try and concentrate and knuckle down. But most of the time it's all right.
Where do you see yourself being in 5 years' time?
To be honest, that's probably the hardest part. I mean, I've got an idea of where I'd like to be in 5 years. I think trying to build our business in such a way where I have less responsibility on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Being able to manage my time in such a way where I get to a point when the day is finished, I can actually say the day is finished. Yeah. And not be working until late, not having to think about working at the weekends to get things done, to meet deadlines. Because I think one of the most important parts of being in business is that you need to form good relationships, good working relationships with other people. And you need to be true to your word. You know, if you say to somebody that you're going to do something, you need to deliver, because if you don't, then it can damage the relationship. And I always think that if I wanted somebody to work for me, I would like for them to be able to stick to their word. And if they couldn't, then they're probably not the right person to work for me. Yeah. So I think it works the same way when we're working for other people.
Do you expect your staff to do more than what you do? So if, say, you only work 40 hours a week, do you expect your staff to work 50 hours a week?
No, I think that everybody that works for us has got the opportunity to do more. And if they do more, then they'll be rewarded for doing more. And I believe that that's fundamental to the success of a business. To ensure that you get the best out of people, they need to be rewarded. There needs to be a goal. There needs to be something for them to aim towards. And I wouldn't expect anybody to work more than me. No. Generally, I would expect people to work less than me because they're not running a business. It's my responsibility.
Yeah. If you had your time again, when you were first starting out with your businesses, what would you do differently?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No. I think that it's important to realise that just in life in general, experience is key, and you will only understand them experiences if you've experienced them firsthand. And to make mistakes it's important to understand when you make mistakes that you can get over them and you can move on, and to suffer some sort of disappointment, because a lot of the time it can be what sort of drives us to be a better person and to be better in business and better in life.
So, going to be really personal now. How old are you, Sam?
The right side of 40.
Yes. So, I know a lot of people might think that only old people own businesses. That's what I'm getting at. And you're still very young.
There's people that I know that are a lot younger than me that are running businesses and are really successful, or people that I know that started their businesses, you know, a lot younger than me and are really successful. And I think it's important to realise that just because you didn't do something first or start early doesn't mean that you won't be successful whichever way you go. I think that it's important, it's very, very important to understand that the path that you choose is the path that you choose. Don't be afraid to sort of deviate or navigate in a different direction, because the experience is probably the most important part. And if you do lots of things, lots of different things, it makes you a more rounded person, you know? Yeah.
So thinking back to your qualifications, to become an architect, you do actually have to study for that, don't you? You can't just do it, can you?
No. So there's lots of different ways that you can be involved. I took a different route than the academic route. I mean, I spent my early years working on building sites. So probably my experience is a lot it's a lot more different to conventional architects who went to university and never spent a day on a building site in their life. But I did study. I did go to college. I done my HNC and I done my MVQs, and I spent a lot of time working for main contractors. I spent a lot of time working for myself, and I've just done lots of different things within construction. The majority of it, the majority of the stuff that I've done in my life has been within construction. Yeah. It hasn't been the same. I've done contracts management, site management. I've been on the tools. I started off as a labourer. You just take whichever path you take, and I didn't actually go and get myself, into college. So from an academic point of view, not until I was in my late 20s.
Yeah. So it's never too late to go to college.
No, definitely not.
When you were working on the tools, do you down tools when it's pouring hard rain or a bit cold, a bit windy?
No, well, it depends what you're doing and how quickly you got to get it finished, and whether it's going to work. If you're going to be better off downing tools because you're not going to be productive, then fair enough, down tools, go and do something different. But I would say generally when we were working on building sites, you would do what you need to do to get the job done, and if you need to do something else, then you do something else. But it's worst case scenario, last resort, you sort of down tools and say, do you know what, I'm not going to do anything today. Yeah. Try and do something productive. I mean, if you're running a business in construction and you're doing a roofing job and you're outside and it's raining, then down tools and go and do some quotes. Go and generate a bit more business.
Yeah. And obviously you wore a three-piece suit to work, and came home from work as clean as you arrived, yeah?
Depends what job I was doing. If I was going to meet clients, then you tend to dress a little bit smarter. But it depends. It really depends what you do, I suppose. But I've worked in an office, and I've worked on site, and I suppose you dress for the occasion.
And when you're on site, do you have to wear personal protection equipment?
Yeah, so it's important. I mean, there's some basic things that you would be expected to wear on a building site. So you'd be asked to wear, you should be wearing boots when you're working on a site. High-vis jacket is going to be an important one. Gloves. Depends what you're doing, to be totally honest. If you're on a site where there's a danger of things falling from height, then you should be wearing a hard hat. If you're working with tools like that can cut, then you should be wearing goggles.
Yeah.
Really it's site specific most of the time, but there's some general things that you should be wearing all the time.
Has anybody got a question for Sam?
How much money do you spend on the materials you use?
And thanks for asking a question. Brave asking a question when nobody else does, especially. So it depends what the job is, to be fair. It really can vary on what the job is and what's involved. But the idea generally is when you buy materials, that you're not spending more than what you've got on the job that you're being paid for.
Yep. How do you manage running a business whilst having small children at home?
That's probably one of the hardest parts of trying to run a business when you've got kids at home. I think having a very supportive wife is probably a big contributing factor. So working as a team, obviously, but just most of the time, most of the people that you work with, they're in the same boat because they've got kids and they're trying to work from home as well. So they understand, like we understand.
Do you have any tips for anyone wanting to be an architect?
I would say that I don't know the route specifically, but I would have thought that the most important things for you really are going to be to stay on and do some sort of A-level course because that's going to be the foundation for you to be able to perhaps go to college or university. But I would say don't be dead set on one thing in particular. I think the main thing, if you want to just be an architect, a standalone architect, then yes, do your best to get through college and go to university and, do the 5 years, because that's generally what it is. Or you could do it the way that I did it and just, try lots of different things. I mean, working in construction is very important. We find that most of our competition from architects, most of the architects that we're against, yes, they've got a good knowledge of architecture, but from a building point of view, they don't fully understand it because they haven't been on a building site and they don't understand the constraints of sites and working in people's houses and the sequencing of works, which I think is very important when you're building something. It's not just what the finished product's going to be, it's how you're going to get there. Yeah. So it's a journey that's very important, and you do understand the journey when you've worked on a site.
Yeah. So, Mr. Davis, you've got your hand up. Have you got a question for Sam?
How could a woman get into construction industry? Is it harder for a woman to get into the construction industry than a man to get into the construction industry?
I would say that for women, construction is it's becoming a much more viable option than it did before, and I don't see any reason why women should not be involved in construction equally or even more than men. I think that, yeah, gender has really got nothing to do with construction. I think you're either good at something or you're not.
But are women going to have to take a different route? Because you said about getting to labouring and then working your way up through the construction industry that way. Are women still going to be able to take that route by getting into labouring and then working their way up?
Yeah, I think anybody has got the capability to start off as a labourer. I mean, it's just labour. Are some people going to be better than others? Obviously, it depends how you built, what your capabilities are physically. I mean, labouring is a physical job. So yeah, but it's not going to suit a woman any more than it's going to suit a man. I would say, from my experience, I think it's about what's up here.